Just because we're drinking lots of Baileys.
I think the only time we drink Baileys is when we actually record. No, we're not recording more than one a week.
And at Christmas. Cheers.
Cheers. Birthdays.
Anyway.
It's recording.
Is it?
Yes.
Recording.
It's recording.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Do you know that they don't wave back?
They do. It's a well-known fact that if anybody waves on a YouTube channel, hi, that everybody, the other side of the screen, waves back. Especially small children.
And how many small children are going to be watching this?
Don't know. We've got Emil in the background.
We have got Emil in the background, sitting over my shoulder. Why is Emil sitting on my shoulder?
Because Emil is one of our lovely customers.
He is one of our lovely customers. I don't think he looks like that usually, though.
What, you don't think Glenn looks like that?
No, I don't think Glenn looks like that. I don't think it was modelled on Glenn. It might have been modelled on Ron, but don't think it was modelled on Glenn.
I'm not sure we're going to have that contract for very long.
Possibly not. Okay, right. Hi everyone, I'm Abigail, the SENsible SENCO from SENCO Solutions, and this is the second Q&A session. What question do you have for us this week, Jay?
I've just had to move so I can actually read the screen. Do I need to create IEPs for SEN students, is the question.
Okay. In a short answer then, be a short video if we did that, no. There's nothing anywhere that says you need to produce any kind of document in any specified format.
And I feel some kind of but coming on.
There's always a but. Okay. But the SEN Code of Practice, always sitting on my desk, talks about gathering information. I've just thrown a pencil at you, don't worry about it.
Landed on my foot.
Did it stop?
Yep.
So the SEN Code of Practice talks about gathering information and making a note of discussions with parents, and that's in paragraphs 6.36 to 6.43. Got it written on the screen. It also talks about the assess, plan, do, review cycle, and you can't really do that without making a record of it, so you're going to have to write something down somewhere. And many local authorities will ask you to evidence that assess, plan, do, review cycle if you decide to apply for an education healthcare needs assessment. So again, you're going to have some form of paperwork, not necessarily physically on paper, it could be electronic, but you're going to have something to track and audit that information.
I'm meant to ask the question now. So,
There you are.
So, I like doing so. You've seen it in the last couple of videos. So, what should the question be?
I think the question should actually be, what records might I need for an SEN student? Cheers. So, some schools opt for good old-fashioned IEPs, individual education plans, or whatever name they've come up with, and I have seen a whole variety of names. So it might be a support plan, a learning plan, an education plan, an individual learning plan. It's an IEP. Some will opt for passports, which are similar to a plan but usually without the targets on them. They're more like a history and a profile picture of the child, and they have different names as well. So there might be profiles, it could be one-page passports, they might be SEN portraits or pen portraits. And then other schools will opt for a highly detailed provision map. So that's information about all the interventions and provisions that child is getting, but with a bit of a detailed picture of that child at the top. And I don't mean a picture as in take a picture, I mean as in a pen picture of that child. And the choice is entirely up to that school as to which one of those works best for them.
I suppose you've got some examples of what they might look like?
Of course I have. Okay, so I'm going to switch us into a little picture up in the, not that corner, why is it on the opposite side? Up in
Ow.
that corner.
Stop poking me.
It's
Stop
going to sit
it!
on top of his head. I'm going to switch us over to that one in a moment, and we can have a look at some of those types of documents on my computer. This is Gareth Morwood's website, and Gareth is a pretty well-known name in the SEN world. And in his resources section on the website, he has got a student passport. You have to scroll quite a way down because they're alphabetical order. So he has there a student passport, and he has a film which shows how they fill in that passport with the students. And as if by magic, I've already downloaded it. I have just removed his school name and his Ofsted logo from up there, but there's the information that you would find on a passport, typical kind of information. So as a class teacher, it's telling me what access arrangements might be in place for that child. Gives me a photo so I know what they look like, perhaps. Although in the days of GDPR now, I know a couple of schools where you're not allowed to put their name and their photo on the same piece of paper.
But surely that's a legitimate purpose.
I would say it's a legitimate purpose, but you'd be surprised how many schools I talk to who are like, no, can't have a photo and their name on the same piece of paper. Anyway, that's kind of beside the point for this. What do you get from that piece of paper?
Well, this is filled out by the staff or by the student?
It's the student's voice, so it's filled out by a member of staff with the student. So you're sitting having that conversation with them, and the child is identifying, I suppose, what they find difficult or what helps them.
Okay, so I spend a lot of time with drivers and stuff like that, being a union rep as I am at the moment. But a lot of those don't know what they could do or they like or what is difficult to them when they go around to put it onto a piece of paper.
Yeah, and that's one of the big problems with pupil voice. So I can remember filling one of these in 6 or 7 years ago with a student, and he had ADHD and ASD, but his major need was staying in a classroom and actually focusing on anything, which fits with that kind of diagnosis. However, when it was him trying to identify what he finds it difficult to do, his answer was, I find it difficult to do maths. As a teacher, that's great. I now know I've got a child who perhaps finds maths difficult, but it didn't actually explain his difficulties to that member of staff. So you kind of have to temper pupil voice with logic and information that staff actually need. Now, it's no big secret, I'm not a great fan of passports, for the simple reason I find it's a document that people fill in at the beginning of the year and then they don't refer to it again.
Humans are things of nature. If I gave a child an option or several options, so we're going through, I find it difficult. Well, Bobby, do you find it difficult to this, and this?
Well, you're putting words in their mouth if you say that. So actually, if I just turn to you and say, Jim, what do you find difficult?
I don't know. What do you think I find difficult?
And at that point, I could then start giving them some ideas. But a passport is incredibly open-ended, and it's not actually, because it is totally pupil voice in this particular example, it's quite difficult to choose what to put on there, I suppose.
Okay, so if I go, well, my mum said that I've got dyslexia, and therefore I must need this, and this. Does that happen in schools?
Oh yeah, I think you're thinking of the example of one of my students I had. Was second year I was at the secondary school I worked at, and her mum said, "Oh, you used to reverse your B's and D's. It means you're dyslexic." She hadn't reversed B's and D's in the 3 years she'd been at the secondary school, and all of a sudden she started reversing them and decided she was dyslexic. Because mum had planted that idea in her head. Why mum decided to do that, we don't know, but that's another story altogether. But yeah, it can be quite difficult, because if I said to you, actually, you find maths quite difficult, because we know that when you read a number out, it's guaranteed you're going to switch the numbers
Second
round.
and third number switched around every time.
Guaranteed, whatever that number is, he'll switch them round. I wish it was my bank balance he was switching. Well, then again, maybe not.
That's in negatives anyway, so we're fine.
Oh, all right then. So yeah, you're almost putting words in their mouth sometimes, but it's that professional judgment. And it is, what do I want you to know? I want you to know that I like football. Great, okay. Is it going to help me actually teach you in the classroom to know that you like football? In some cases, yes, because I might be able to tailor my lessons to support that.
Association.
Yeah. In other cases, is it actually relevant? Probably not.
Okay, that's a nice paper kind of based system that you've got there, but is there anything else that you can see that would do the job as well?
Yeah, so I work with EduKey. I work as their consultant SENCO, and EduKey have a program called Provisional Map. And in Provision Map, you can write learning plans and passports and profiles for students. So I've loaded up one already here, and this one's a pupil profile or passport. I couldn't decide which one to call it.
I do like the name Dr. Abigail Hawkins.
Of course, that's me. For Claire, who's in year 9. And what you have is, if you decide to use the passport part of the programme, or the profile part of the programme, you can add in there tiles, and those tiles you can then go through and type in those same things that you actually just saw on Gareth's passport. So it has the same drawbacks, I suppose, in that it's pretty much pupil voice. The advantage, though, is that you could add extra boxes for individual pupils. Mm-hmm. So his document, whether you print it out and handwrite in it, or if it's a Word document, it can always be a bit awkward to add an extra box into it. Yep. In this programme, this is set up as my standard template, but I could then add an extra box to it to say how you can help me, perhaps, rather than how I can help myself, or the support I require in class, or whatever's going on. And the nice thing about using an electronic version of this kind of thing is that actually all your information is pulled into one place. So in a few minutes' time we'll have a look at learning plans, we'll actually look at IEPs, but here I can actually see all the provisions and interventions that are provided for that child as well. Yeah. So that was almost on that previous template that we looked at, but here I'm not having to enter it again, I'm not having to go to a spreadsheet and copy it across or anything else. It's actually all pulled across for me.
I'm liking the Emil numeracy catch-up that's on that as
well. Of course, because Emil is still sitting on my shoulder.
Still is.
He's got to be there. I quite fancy the pupil premium enrichment fishing, though.
Well, there's got to be more than just EduKey out there.
There are. So you have Blue Hills. There is something built within Sims. If you're a Sims school, you can actually use their provision mapping and SEN programs. I don't have access to those, though, to be able to show those on the screen. But there are 2 other paper-based versions which I can show you. So one of them is Helen Sanderson Associates, and if you click on person-centered practices and one-page profiles, or click on it, you have this document here that opens, and if you click on these here for the templates, there are some very basic, very simple templates available there for one-page profiles. I don't think this could be used at a primary school, and this word occupation here kind of indicates to me that they're meant for older people. However, I have seen them used in schools. And they tend to have the same thing, so what people appreciate about me, what is important to me, and how to support me. And you're screwing your nose up because you're not impressed with those. They're not incredibly pupil friendly, and I don't think they have enough information on there for a member of staff.
Well, they look kind of pretty, I suppose.
They look something.
And that's my non-educational background opinion on it. Look kind of pretty.
Okay, so there is another alternative. There is a site called Chef Kids.
Now these are more up my street.
Well, yeah, it is up the street from us.
Yes, yeah, okay.
All right. So Chef Kids have got these. These are, I would say, they're very primary based, and these are these are templates. They're all very primary based, darling. These are templates. You can download them. They are free. They're out there on the site, and if I go to my Word documents again, I've actually already downloaded the very pretty dinosaur one. But again, it's all about what people like and admire about me, what makes me happy, and how I want to be supported.
And it's still more about how that person feels about themselves, and at that kind of age you just don't know, so it's got to be a really difficult thing for somebody to do.
Incredibly difficult to try and balance that, what the child wants and what they actually need. But the code of practice is very, very clear about a pupil having a voice. Flash the code of practice
again.
Code
of practice again. Flashed it in the last one. Flash it in this one.
It's back to front on this screen, by the way. Did you not notice that?
It won't be by the time it goes out.
Oh, right, okay. It's... I've forgotten what I was saying. You have to have your pupil voice represented and your parent voice represented, and these documents are very much written from a pupil voice perspective.
Okay.
I promised I'd come back to the old-fashioned IEP, if you like. So again, I've come back to EduKey's Learning Plans and Provision Maps. You can do this on a paper-based version if you want, so Word document.
One of the best systems that are there. Hi, Duncan.
He's not getting paid.
Not getting paid for this.
Should be. So this is an old-fashioned IEP.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, however, it does follow the assess, plan, do, review cycle. So I've got core information about the child at the top. I've got that assess section that talks about their areas of strength and any areas of concern. I've got a plan underneath, and in this case I've just chosen an ADHD target. The nice thing about Educare is that those targets are actually written in that library. There's 1,018 of them already there. So if you have brain fog and you've got a child and you're like, I really don't know where I'm going next with them, there are some ideas in there for you.
And that is massively time saving for your SENCO and all the staff.
Absolutely, and that library can be used, let's say, by an NQT who's they've got a child in their class who's not ADHD but is struggling to focus, because it's got all the strategies and provisions suggested in there. It's actually supporting teaching practice. Anyway, so I've got my plan there, and then I've got my box for back to our pupil voice. So this time the pupil voice actually isn't a massive focus on the page, and we are almost making those decisions, but we're not making them in isolation. We're kind of having the discussion with the parents and the pupil. And of course over here I can actually assign somebody to be responsible for that target, and
all made up people.
All made up people, of course. I'm going to make the parents responsible for that one. That wouldn't work in this particular example, but I can.
Yeah, you might struggle.
I might struggle to get the parents to get them in the classroom. But if it was an appropriate target in that, so perhaps I want them to read for 10 minutes at home every day, I can ask the parents to take responsibility for targets alongside school, because sometimes that doesn't happen as well, and that's quite important. Working together. And again, all that information is being pulled across, so we're back to the Emil numeracy catch-up, and we're still going fishing. And I can attach any files to this as well, so all my information here, her previous plan, her previous passport, EHCP documentation or information if she's got one, letter from the GP, etc., that's all attached there. And her history, I've got a filing cabinet going on. So we've had a look at those different examples of plans, passports, and ways we can do it. So we've got paper-based versions, we've shown you an electronic version. It just goes back to this code of practice, and it says that you do have to record something, but how you choose to record that is entirely up to you as a school. Don't forget to like,
subscribe,
and leave a comment in the section below.
Well, that was near enough.